Looking back now, I realized I had no idea what I was getting myself into. My first inkling into the heartache called motherhood was on the third day after my daughter was born. My mother had been with me from the moment my contractions began till we headed to the hospital. Her instinct told her that I ought to be pushing at some point, but the midwife was nowhere to be found. We had to decide on a C-section. I now realize the magnitude of anxiety and terror she must have had. Where I come from, C-sections are bad news. She had been with me every moment after my baby was born. On the third day, she had to go leave to check on my father. He was not feeling well. The baby was asleep. I told her it was all right. I had no idea it was not. Until I heard the door shut, and I was alone with my baby for the very first time. I felt the cold hands of fear grip my heart. A sudden rush of anxiety overwhelmed me. I realized I was going to be completely responsible for another human being for the rest of my life. I looked at the tiny sleeping baby and thought, oh my God, what have I done? I suddenly had a strong urge to pee. I began to sob uncontrollably. I can't be responsible for another human being. I honestly cannot be completely responsible for another human being. Somewhere in the midst of my panic, I recalled that the nurse had said to drag the crib with me when I go to the toilet. I yanked myself off the bed and dragged my drip stand with the crib into the bathroom and tried to pee my way to comfort. Little did I know that this trepidation will remain my companion and that for the next few years, peeing in private will be a luxury. Being a first-time mom was stressful for me. I honestly did not enjoy it. I felt like I had lost my sense of identity and became a pair of boobs. I slept little, breastfed much, sanitized, purified, dehumidified. I had read too many books, and each treatise on motherhood had sucked away the joy of bringing new life into the world. I was now a mom, a role I honestly never daydreamed about, but in which I was determined to succeed. Instead, I had dreamt about becoming a great architect, the first female African architect to something. I didn't know what. Anything. Growing up in Nigeria, my mother, a well-educated high school teacher who later went on to get her PhD and held administrative roles in the Federal Ministry of Education, took her responsibility to train her daughters in the roles society had assigned to them seriously: cooking and cleaning. She understood that irrespective of our other accomplishments, these were the standards by which the society we were in would judge us. Iya Dunni, have you washed the dishes? What are you doing? You are reading a book again. When you get to your husband's house, is it books you are going to be reading? first time she said this, I was probably 8 or 9 years old. By the time I was 13, I had decided I was not going to go to this mysterious husband's house. I would just be a great architect and not have to cook and clean. Fast forward 19 years later, cooking and cleaning was all I was doing. The very thing that I feared the most had come upon me. I heard the laughing voices of my male colleagues who taunted me back then in architecture school in Nigeria. It no matter how good you did for architecture bookie. Now for man's kitchen, you go still day. No matter how good you are at architecture bookie, you will still end up in a man's kitchen. That had stung real deep. I resolved that would not be my future. So I had planned to return to work right after the baby. But somehow, between Bush, the Iraq War, and Lehman Brothers, there was a recession, and there were no jobs. So I was at home, cooking, cleaning, in the kitchen, purifying and sanitizing, at the beck and call of a little girl who was excited to see me every morning, but had no idea how much inner resolve it took from me to care for her daily. Whatever your hands find to do, you do it well. My mother taught me that. So I listened to my mother and purified, sanitized as best as I could. It was a dark period. I thought I might have been depressed, but I am Nigerian, born and bred in the city of Lagos. How can I be depressed when I have food to eat and a roof over my head? Do the poor street hawkers in the city of Lagos have time to be depressed? Where I come from, you find reasons to be thankful, even in the midst of abject poverty and destruction. So I tried to be thankful. Sometimes it worked. Other times, the darkness engulfed me. I felt like life was being sucked out of me. I was terrified. My hopes, my dreams, my aspiration, all seemed to be slipping away with every change of a diaper. My first affirmation came at the end of a 16-hour flight to Johannesburg in South Africa. My 9-month-old baby and I were heading to my sister's wedding. I was terrified to make the trip alone, so I packed everything she could possibly need on the plane. That now familiar feeling of panic had its cold hands around my heart. At the end of the flight, an older lady walked up to me and said, "You took such good care of that baby. You're a wonderful mom." I burst into tears. I could not say thank you. I would have started bawling. I nodded my head. She put an arm around me. She understood my terror, this terror called motherhood. Thank you.